An Ontario organization is protesting more than 600 possible school closures hitting rural areas in the province. And they're not alone. Rural communities right across Canada are dealing with similar situations. They are watching their local schools close down, leaving parents no choice but to put kids on a bus for hours each day as they commute to and from school. So what are the reasons for these closures, and how are they affecting these rural communities and the students' education? In studio with us today is the co-founder of the Ontario Alliance Against School Closures, Susan Mackenzie. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, long commute times for kids in rural communities is nothing new. You know, I grew up in the prairies. My husband was a farm kid. You know, he did an hour and a half in and an hour and a half home. But this is something new. What has caused you now concern?
It is affecting the smaller rural communities in the sense that we have single school communities that are now being targeted for closure.
So, and why is that?
Declining enrollment all over the province, but the funding formula is a blanket formula. It's equitable, but it's not fair. It doesn't recognize the geographical circumstances in rural Ontario.
We'll get to the numbers in just a moment, but can you give us a sense, Susan, of what some of the families are telling you that they are facing, in particular in the northern regions of the province?
Oh, in the northern regions, they're looking at bus rides in excess of 4 hours a day. And that often puts the student on the bus longer than in the classroom.
Well, and you know, you think about this as a parent, if you've got a child that's in grade 1, for example, that's a long time to be sitting, you know, after school, you're going to be hungry, you're going to be tired. It also means that you're not participating in either family time or in, you know, extracurricular activities.
There's a lot of things that contribute to that, and I could never imagine putting a 7-year-old on the bus at 6:45 in the morning in the dead of winter.
This is not a new problem. You know, smaller schools or lower enrollment in smaller schools. We do know that we have less people living in some of our rural areas, you know, not just in this province, but right across the board. Mm-hmm. So, you know, your frustration now is that there seems to be a desire to have sort of a one big centralized school. The provincial government says this is a good idea.
The provincial government says it is, but there is research to say that smaller schools have higher graduation rates. So you're not doing a K to 12 model in the rural areas. They're not used to that, and that's what the government is trying to incentivize school boards to do.
So what are you frustrated about then, Susan?
The geographical area, if you look at the Toronto District School Board, it's 630 square kilometres. If you look at the Greater Sudbury area, the Rainbow District, it is 24 times the size in geographic, 24 times the size as the Toronto District School Board.
And we did reach out to the provincial government here in Ontario, and I want to read their statement that they sent to us. The Education Minister is Mitzi Hunter. We did send out an invitation for her to join us in this conversation. She declined, but here is her statement. What it says is population fluctuations in communities are not new, which is why we've made changes to the education funding formula. Since 2013, annual funding for rural boards increased by nearly $200 million, or about 6%. Our government ensures that schools are a considerable distance from the next school, so 10 kilometers for elementary and 20 kilometers for secondary, and that they would receive additional funding and support even if they are less than full. That sounds reasonable to me. Susan, what's your concern with that?
Well, the one thing that I will challenge is the 10 kilometers for elementary. The 10 kilometers for elementary is closest to another elementary school, but when you have a K to 12 configuration, that becomes 20 kilometers. So these elementary school students are going to be transported 20 kilometers because that's the nearest to any school, not just an elementary school. So that I would challenge that comment. We're yet to find the $200 million increase because with the geographic circumstances grant, it has decreased by almost $10 million, and that is directly for rural and northern communities. And then also the top-up funding is being diminished. It might be okay for urban areas, but not for rural areas.
What about this idea of local grants for specific school boards? What are you seeing there?
Local grants?
Local grants in terms of helping with busing or, you know, van rides for kids who would be on a bus more than a certain amount of time or a certain kilometer distance.
There are some school boards that will provide transportation for children that are attending extracurricular activities. That might be a couple of times a week. But it's not just the extracurricular activities that are being affected. It's the homework time, the family time, the dinner time, sleep time.
It's a problem not unique anywhere. In every province in this country is dealing with this issue of closing smaller schools, longer bus times, and how it's going to affect kids. We are far from a solution here. But Susan, thank you so much for highlighting some of it for us today.
Thank you.